Hey gang, welcome to my channel. I'm the Pony 314, and this time we're going all the way back to the Great War for something that was Spanish made, French used, and now is Pony owned. The Ruby pistol. What a nifty little shooter this thing is. So, what do you say we take a closer look and see if Ruby won't take her love to town? So before we get started, if you all could do us a solid and hit that subscribe button, helps out the channel, would appreciate it. Anyway, first, here are the basics. This is a semi-automatic pistol chambered in .32 ACP, has a 9-round magazine and a manually operated safety, fixed sights, and it has a concealed hammer. These were produced initially by Galibando y Urrety in Spain starting in the middle of 1914. It was based pretty heavily on the Colt 1903 Pocket Hammerless, which a lot of Spanish companies are actually basing their own designs on. Now this was intended, hopefully, for military and police use, but the main reason for its development appears to have been the American civilian market. I don't doubt they would have found a pretty eager customer base there, but they didn't make it there because starting not long after this pistol went into manufacture, there was this problem, you see, called the Great War, World War I if you prefer, and pretty quickly the French found themselves running short of small arms, including sidearms, and they sent purchasers to Galibando y Urrety, saying, in so many words, we'll buy as many of these nifty little Ruby pistols as you can make. I don't know where the name Ruby came from. I can't seem to find anything on it. But .32 ACP, very widely used military round at that time. Not so much now, but a pistol like this was regarded as a perfectly acceptable and serviceable military sidearm. And the numbers that were supposed to be produced per month for French service were really ambitious. So much so that a number of other companies had to be contracted to make these, and a lot of other companies contracted to make parts. And so what you had was somewhere in the area of 50 Spanish companies involved in its production in one form or another. Now, because of that, there were a lot of variations, very minor ones, but part interchangeability wasn't really that much of a thing, and that's especially true of the magazine. Now, these did not interchange all the time, and that is not the best idea for a service pistol. So you'd better hope that if you were issued a Ruby pistol, you were issued magazines from the same manufacturer. You can usually tell because there's maker's marks at the bottom of the magazine and here at the back of the frame. Now, because of all that, different manufacturers tended to do things their own way. And one thing is this safety. There's safe, there's fire, could be switched by rubbing up against a holster. You don't want to put a hole in your legs. What some companies did was added this protrusion to basically billow out the holster so that wouldn't happen, but a lot of companies didn't do that. So if you were issued a Ruby, you really didn't know what you were going to get. Evidently, however, despite all these problems, it seemed to give pretty good service during World War I, and it was made in huge numbers. About 1 million were made for French service before the war ended, enough that the French were able to pass on some of these to Serbia. I think Galibando y Urrety kept making it till 1919. Other companies were making them, I think, to the beginning of the 30s, when the Great Depression shut down a lot of factories. But it wound up, I think mostly in the 20s, being acquired by other European armies. The Greece, Belgium, Norway, Yugoslavia, a few others, I think, used it at one time or another. And the Germans also used captured ruby pistols. I think they did this during both World Wars because 32 ACP was a widely used round by German forces. And despite the fact that the French had other options, they held on to these through the end of World War II. They were used by both the Free French and Vichy French forces, and I believe a lot of them wound up in the hands of the French resistance. But it is, if you get a reliable one with a magazine from the same manufacturer, I don't think you'd be sorry. What you'll have is a nifty little range plinker, a really cool piece of history that's often overlooked, and the likelihood that you're going to be the only one at the range who has one. So, I only became familiar with the Ruby pistol a few years ago, and learning about it, I decided that would be a really cool thing to have in my collection. I went out and got one. The magazine it came with functions perfectly fine. I don't think they're from the same manufacturer. They have different maker's marks between the weapon and the magazine, but I haven't had a single problem with this. It has been a really cool range gun, and with that in mind, I'd like to go use it as one right now, so how about we head to the range? So I will see you in Truth or Consequences. Welcome to beautiful Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. And today, we're going to be shooting the French Ruby pistol. We have our zombie 3D bleeding target about a dozen yards downrange, and we're going to put some 32 caliber holes in it. So, let's go ahead and get started. It is now time for our second shoot with the French Ruby, and have a few holes in our bleeding zombie target. What do you say we put 9 more in it? It is time for our third and final shoot with the French Ruby, so let's finish strong. There really is something about these old school 32 autos. It's not a well-respected round today, but it should be. And so also should be the weapons that fired it. This French Ruby is just a fun little piece. And, well, that was our episode on it. That was the French Ruby. And if you like what we do on this channel, feel free to do the usual. Hit that subscribe button, it helps out the channel. I'm the Pony 314. And I will see you at the range.